All right. Then I'm going to go wine.
Got to have some wine. And I know that you can go either way, red or white. I think I want red.
I want white.
Of course. I think, and you know what? It's so goofy. The reason that I think I gravitate towards red is because that's how we made it when I worked at Pops, but also the deep coloration of the sauce in the end product, I think, is helped along by the red wine. So I'm negotiable, I guess I could say. I'm my non-negotiable. I want wine for sure. I don't think, we had talked about on sauce how maybe in a lot of places we would substitute vermouth. I don't think vermouth is right for this dish.
No.
Because again, we want a really delicately beefy flavored sauce. And I think that the herbs and additives, but added botanicals in vermouth are going to be kind of crowding it out.
I guess where I lean white is for two reasons. Number one, we don't have any issue of tannins from the red. Now, of course, you can choose your red accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, yes, you get some primary fruit flavors from white wine. So, like green apple, lemon. It depends on the white wine, but white cooking wine, right, is going to be like acidic. It's going to be fruity, but light and clean. Whereas I think a red introduces bolder fruit character red fruits that are going to, I wouldn't say clash with the tomatoes, but maybe distract from.
Okay.
Maybe we'll go 50-50.
That could be an easy fix for our conundrum.
If there were
Are you suggesting mixology? Okay, fine.
Next non-negotiable for you.
Milk.
Yeah.
Got to have some dairy in here. It's going to add to it's going to give it some unctuousness and some silky quality. And we're going to cook it. You cook, when we get to the cooking part of this, you cook the liquids out. There's almost none left behind. So what you're really getting from the milk is kind of the lactose. And that's what's going to give it that mouthfeel.
Yep. The lactic acid also helps activate the meat's own enzymes. So it starts to help gently tenderize it, which is why I think, the Hazan approach is so good, because if that's the first liquid that the meat, which you've not necessarily heavily browned, or she doesn't, if that's the first liquid it meets and then you reduce that right down so it's completely gone, I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me, rather than finishing the sauce with it, which
honestly, it does,
odd.
Which is what I did my entire time. And every time I've made this, the milk is kind of the last thing. But now that makes perfect sense.
And you know what I was also surprised at? I've never cooked this dish with milk. So this is a completely new ingredient for me for this one. What about the risk of curdling, right? If you have the extreme acid from the tomatoes and from your wine and you're mixing milk into that, isn't there a risk of that curdling? I mean, we make our milk punches.
I've never had it happen to me. I think the heat is helping.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. But your point, I think the traditional version is like you have done at the end. So.
It is, but this makes more sense. Listen, I am nothing if not willing to learn something. I'm not a gatekeeper of information, and I'm willing to learn and change my opinion. And I don't even think I really had a strong opinion. I just this is how it's done. And then when you say that, and I'm like, wait, yeah, that's true. It almost makes me want to go I don't know, do I fold some of the milk into my ground beef before I even get it into the pan? No, because I want to get some browning. But right?
Yeah.
Because we do that with other things. We soak other things in dairy before we, think about your yogurt lamb or your
veal sweetbreads.
Chicken dipped in buttermilk. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
So I've got one kind of related to, we got into a little bit of milk science there for me. I don't think this is a non-negotiable when it comes to something I would be able to tell as a diner, but it's a standard that I hold myself to at home or when I was working in kitchens. For any dish that contains acidic ingredients, and is going to be cooked for a long time, cooking for a long time is a non-negotiable. I think we can agree on that.
That was my last one. Long cooking. Therefore, you should never be using an aluminum pan, or there's some other materials as well for pans. Now, I get that that's not going to be an issue for most people at home, right?
Most people have stainless steel, or aluminum pans aren't that common in home kitchens.
It's true, yeah.
But the big stock pots that you get, when you have massive pots in kitchens, aluminum's cheaper. And sometimes you don't have the pan you need available. And people would start sauces, and our chef would go crazy if there was any tomato in there.
Yeah. I can agree. And you're right. This isn't as common at home anymore. I remember having, like, my grandmother had, like, aluminum ware. I think it was actually Griswold aluminum stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, probably worth money if it still existed. But I got that Sunbeam mixer. Anyway, yeah, you're right. And we had certain pots that we would make the Bolognese in at the restaurant that, again, yeah, no tomato going in there. That's good. That's a good call. I didn't even think about that. But also I did notice that when I went to the Academy's website and looked up the codification of the recipe, it does call for using enameled cast iron, or it lists like 3 that are like that you can use. And I'm like, man, these guys got to the nitty gritty. That was like line 1. Line 2, a wooden spoon, like specifically.
Stainless steel, enameled cast iron, or terracotta is the third one. Yeah. And the reason we're saying this as well, it's not to be like overly pedantic, but that's
the point of the show.
No, but so acid plus aluminum or aluminum, the reaction, especially over a long period of cooking, will extract a faint metallic taste and a kind of bitter tinge to the dish. And it's not good.
It'll also etch your pans. Mm-hmm. I have a great example right now at my house. I made a bunch of pickles recently out of watermelon, and I sat them in quart containers, deli-style quart containers, on an aluminum sheet pan, and put them in the back of my cabinet or whatever. And when I went to grab one recently, there's a ring where the container was sitting that is etched. Like, it looked dirty, and I felt it, and I could feel it. And then I went to scrub it, and I'm like, oh no, the vinegar, some of it bubbled out.
Yeah,
the vinegar etched my. So this can happen, and yes, it will produce some off flavors. Now, it's not going to kill you. Probably not going to change anything really, but like, if we can avoid it, let's avoid it.
Let's avoid it. Yeah, and yeah, more of a technical consideration than a non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. Then final one for me here. Oh. Finish it with cheese, and it has to be Parmigiano-Reggiano.
Okay.
It's true to the region, and I would expect that, or I would at least expect to be offered it at someone's house or in a restaurant. So the option of having cheese.
Right on.
Okay, so let's fly through now the what Bologna registered most up to date in 2023. These are the classic non-negotiables. Meat is ground beef and unsmoked pancetta. The sofrito, onion, carrot, celery. The liquids, 1 glass of wine, and that can be red or white. They go for the double passata and double concentrate tomato paste. Mm-hmm. They do include milk, but now marked as optional, which I'm not sure they needed to dial back on that one.
Yeah, wow.
A little bit of broth.
Which we didn't mention. We need some broth.
Actually, we do. Yeah, that's another one. And extra virgin olive oil for cooking. I believe earlier versions had included butter. Mm-hmm. Which seems distinctly non-Italian, although, again, we're in the northern half here at least. And then they have a method. And as I mentioned earlier, the most notable thing about their method is adding the milk at the end.
Yeah.
The Academy